everybody, and welcome back to Crafting with Miss Kendell. My name is Miss Kendell, and I work at the Wayne County Public Library Children's Department. Today, we are going to be making a little slithery snake that you can actually move around. And to make this, you only really need a few items, and one of them is a paper plate. So I'm going to show you how to turn your paper plate into a slithery, movable snake. So the things that you will need, of course, is a paper plate. You can use any size that you want. I find that the bigger size works best for making a snake. You're also going to need some newspaper, some red paper, or really you can use any color you want for the snake's tongue. You're going to need a hole puncher. If you don't have one, you can always use the end of a really sharp pencil, but I'm going to use a hole puncher today. You're also going to need these little guys. These are called brass fasteners. They kind of look like a little mushroom almost. But these you can find at any dollar store or even at any home office goods store. So you're going to need 4 of those. Some glue, I'm using a glue stick today. Some markers, and anything to sort of color with. I have some crayons if we need them. A pair of scissors, and also I'm using googly eyes. If you don't have googly eyes, that's okay. You can always use paper or you can draw your eyes on. You're also going to need an adult with you in case if you need some help. So the first thing that we're going to do is decorate and color our paper plate. So this is where the newspaper comes in. The way that I colored my snake is I use the marker watercolor technique. So for that, you're going to need your newspaper laid down to protect your workstation, and you're going to take your paper plate, and with your paper plate, you're going to color it with markers. So let's see, I'm going to do a rainbow technique here. Maybe some purples. Okay. So to do this watercolor marker technique, you're going to need, of course, some markers that are washable. And you're just going to start coloring them onto your paper plate. You can do it, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can honestly be as messy and scribbly as can be. And we're just going to put any and all colors on there that you want. I'm going to do a rainbow design, but you can use your favorite color, and if you just want one color, that's perfectly okay too. If you don't have markers, or if you don't want to do this technique, since it is a little messy, you don't have to. You can always color this with color pencils, markers, or really anything that you have to color with. Okay, a couple more colors here. There we go. All right, last color. I'm going to do this purple here. Go. Alrighty. So once you get your paper plate all scribbled on, you can set your markers aside for now. Mine looks something like this. And so what you're going to do next is you're going to want a paintbrush and also a little cup of water. And you'll dip the paintbrush into your water and then just sort of start mixing the colors all around. And what will happen is the colors will bleed together. You're going to want to set your paper plate aside so that it can dry. And once as you get all the colors blended together with the water and all the markers, it should look something like this when it's dried. So I used all the colors of the rainbow, so mine looks sort of like this. But again, you don't have to do the watercolor technique. You can do whatever you want. So next we're going to actually cut our paper plate into 2 parts. So if you notice, on your paper plate there's like this circle in the middle, and then there's like this perfect ring around that circle. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut the circle out, and so that it's in 2 parts. So I'm going to make a little cut right here, and I'm only cutting until that circle. So you have like a little slit there, and we're going to cut the circle out. This part can be a little tricky, especially if you did the watercolor technique. So if you need an adult to cut it out for you, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to get that circle out, so then we have 2 separate parts. Okay, so here is our circle, and then here is the rim of the paper plate. So we're going to turn this into the snake's body, and we're going to turn it into 4 little pieces. So I'm going to set my circle off to the side. So I think I'm going to cut right here, right across from that other slit. So then we have 2 pieces, and then I'm going to cut these in half. So I'm going to cut right here, and then I'm going to cut right here. So now we've turned the rim of the paper plate into 4 little parts. And for these, we can trim them down, or we can just round out the edges so that they don't look so squarish. So there's one little edge here. You don't have to do this part if you want your snake to look more boxy. That's completely okay. I think I want this to be the tail. So to make the tail end, we're going to turn that kind of into a point. Ooh, just like that. Do the same on the other side. Like that, and then you can round it out a little bit. Man, I'm making a mess. That's okay. So you're just going to do this to each part of your snake's body. Just sort of round out those edges so they're not as sharp. Doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. All right, last part of the body. There we go. And there we go. With all our little scraps, we can push those off to the side and recycle those. So now we have 4 little parts of the body, including a little tail. So I'm going to set those off, and now we're going to make the head. So we're going to make the head out of the circle that we cut out of the middle of our paper plate. And to make the head, I'm going to first make an oval on the white part of the paper on the back. Just going to make a nice wide oval like that. And then we're going to cut it out. There we go. Set that off to the side to recycle it. So that's my colorful little snake head. And I'm actually going to make the very end of it a little bit more pointy. Just so then it's sort of like a snake's mouth. There we go. You don't have to do this part if you like it more round. That's perfectly okay. More scraps to recycle. So there's our little snake head. So now we can decorate it. We can draw on some eyes, or I'm going to use some googly eyes for mine. There we go. There's 2 little eyeballs, just like that. And now he needs a little slithery tongue. So for that, again, I'm going to draw his little tongue on some red paper, and I'm going to draw a long rectangle. That's about maybe 2.5 inches long, just like that. We're going to cut it out here. Set that little piece of paper off to the side to use for another craft. And again, we're going to make it so that it's nice and pointy by just cutting sort of like a triangle at the very end. Just like that. Then we're going to put some glue on it. And we're going to glue it sort of towards the front of our little snake here. There we go. You can even draw on 2 little dots for his nose there. There we go. All right, now it's time to assemble our snake. So I'm going to use my hole punch for this part, but if you don't have one of these, you can always use the end of a really pointy pencil. So we're going to poke a hole right at the very top of our snake's head. We're going to poke a hole right there. And then for his tail, we're only going to poke a hole at the very top. You don't want to do the bottom that we made pointy, just the top of the tail. There we go. Set that off to the side. For the other 3 pieces of his body, we're going to poke holes at both ends. So again, for the tail, you only do one end. For the rest of his body, both ends. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. There we go. There's 2, and now the final piece. There we go. Now it's time to assemble the snake. So I'm going to start with the tail. And if you notice, these sort of curve the same way, but what I'm going to do is actually flip it so that they curve a different way. So again, for the next part of the body, see how these curve the same way? I'm going to flip it. And you just do that for all the pieces. So see how these are the same? I'm going to flip it so that they all go different ways. So to put these pieces together, you're going to take one of your little brass fasteners, and line up the 2 holes here. Stick your fastener through, and bend those little parts down so it secures those together. And you're just going to do that for all the pieces. Again, line up the little holes we punched, take one of your brass fasteners, and secure it down. Again, we're going to line those up. If you don't have any of these fasteners, that's okay. You can always skip the hole punch part and just tape your pieces together. And then you'll just have one really long snake. So finally, we have to secure the head. So we're going to line up our pieces here. I think I want it on the front. Yeah, I'll do the front. Put in our little brass fastener. Secure those down, and then you have a very colorful snake made right out of a paper plate. So again, if you don't have some of the supplies, you can always substitute the little brass fasteners for tape and just tape your little snake together. You don't have to do the watercolor method. You can always use whatever craft supplies that you have to color your snake. But that is how you make today's craft. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I will see you guys next time.